Hi, welcome to another quick tip from Think Creative TV. Hope that you enjoy this, and if you do, it'd be great if you could subscribe and click the like button below. But let's get started with our tip of the day. Okay, so this is kind of a direct carry on from a video I've made earlier about how to make Back to the Future time circuits. And it's become something from those time circuits where I thought, actually, that was fun to make, but there's kind of a real use for that in the classroom, or at least for me in the classroom. And that is having a countdown timer on my screen. So, for example, recreating something like this that I could just have in a PowerPoint slide or Keynote slide that can just play constantly, for every time I have a question on the screen and I want the students to focus that they've got a minute or something. Could I have that on the screen within the presentation without having to change anything? So what I've done is created each number nice and large on the slide. I've changed the dimension of the slide as well. So just by going into more and going to the document setup, I've just slide size 3x4 works for this, but you could make it neater by going into the custom. And then I thought, okay, so what I basically want this to do is to move from that slide to that slide after a second, because then it would give me my second countdown, and then I can do that for each of the other from 50 down to 40, etc., which would be a 10-second delay, and then even into the minutes where you would have a minute delay between each number transitioning. So once I've got my numbers from 9 to 0, the process is to animate these. So I can do this in two ways. I can click on the slide and tap on transition here. Or I can tap on the three dots and go to transitions, gets to the same point. And what I've done is if I just delete this out, I've added in the transition. I've chosen automatic because it's a video that I'm going to create at this. I want it to just automatically transition from one slide to the next. Go back, and then I specifically changed the delay to 1 second because this is my 9876, my 10-second countdown. And I've done that for each one of these. Okay, so you can see the whole process is there for each one. The next step then is to create that as a movie, just my 9 down to 0 as a movie. To do that, I tap on the three dots, I tap on export, I choose movie, and I just make sure that I've got the right slide selected in my range. So for instance, the number 9 is on slide number 7, and that goes all the way down to the 0 on slide number 16. And then I tap on export. Now that's just going to create that first kind of tab from 9 down to 0. And then I just repeat the process. So I'll show that in a second once this one is done. I do the same process, but now I need to do it for the kind of the tens of the seconds. Okay, so my 50 all the way down 40, 30, 20, 10, because that's going to be the second digit along. So just to save this video here and just explain what I mean. So I need it to be this section here. Now these change every 10 seconds. So for that, I go into my 5, go to my transitions. I change this from automatic, don't want it to be 1 second anymore. So I change that up to 10 seconds because I need that to change to 4 after 10 seconds. And then repeat the process then for 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. And then the final one is I need this to also probably have a minute timer in here. So let's just say, probably 5 minutes. I might want, you could do this obviously all the way up to 9 and have a full sort of 10-minute countdown timer. And the same process. Okay, so if I just go to the 3, for example, I would go to transition. I would change this, but instead of it being the 10 seconds it was before, it's now going to have to be all the way up to the 60 seconds. So every 60 seconds, that number is going to go down by 1, give me the next minute down. Okay, and again, you would do that for 3, 2, 1. You would just go up the top and you would go through the same process. So you would export it as a movie. So basically what you end up with is something that looks like this. I have a movie here, which is my 2 minutes going down to 1 minute, going down to obviously 0. I have my 50 seconds going down to 40 seconds, 30 seconds, 20 seconds, etc. And then I've got my 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the process to actually then create this as a little clock, because now these are all individual elements. That's my minute. I can play around with this as many times as I need to. I've just lined them all up and got the dots in between so it looks like a clock. And then finally, again, I go to my transitions. This time I'm looking at what happens within the slide. So I'm going to start this movie. I've made sure that each one of those starts with the first one. So each element starts with build one. So they all start at exactly the same time. Tap done. And then the very final thing you need to do is, obviously when this gets down to 0, it needs to start back on 9 because this one is going to change to 4, and you'll see this in a second. So I've just gone onto the paintbrush and I've made sure I've looped that video. Okay, so when it gets down to 0, it's going to go back to 9 after 10 seconds. And I've done exactly the same for the 50, looped it, and I've done exactly the same here for the minutes. That's all looped. So what happens then if you play that is that you see that the clock starts to count down, changes every second. When it gets to that kind of 0 point, it's going to flip over. So it's going to go to 49. And then it's going to, when that gets all the way down to zeros in the seconds, it's going to change this one here to change down to the 1 as well. Okay, so hopefully nice simple way to do that. The final step is to export this slide as a movie. So just want to select slide number 5. And then export this. And the reason for that is I want to have this as just a single movie that I can put onto any slide. So let's say, this is my 3-minute countdown timer. I might also make one for 10 seconds. I might, it's the same process. You can just choose how long you want it to work for. You can see it actually doesn't take much time once you've made each individual element. It's just how you arrange them on the screen. So I save that video. And then let's jump into another presentation. Let's say I've got this presentation here. I have a question on a slide. We do this a lot as educators, and I want this to kind of be a specific time that I want them to work for. So I go to my photos and videos. I find that video that I've created, which is this one here. Tap use. I can then just place this somewhere on the slide. And then when you tap on play on the slide, you're going to have a countdown timer just in the top corner. So it could be, you've got X amount of time left before you need to, regroup or share your answers back to the front of the class. So that's kind of how we take that Back to the Future kind of style clock interface for a bit of fun to actually turn it into something which actually is potentially quite useful in the classroom.